There we go. There we go. There we go. Nice. Guys, summertime fishing can be a little bit more challenging. These shallow summertime fish are not as schooled up as they are in the fall and the spring. But they will still be a little predictable. You know what you're looking for. Come on, buddy. What do we got? There we go. There we go. So guys, when you're fishing for these shallow summertime bass, these bass will really be scattered, and they really hold close to structure, the shady side of structure. So you've really got to have a bait that you can cover a lot of water, but not only cover a lot of water, but you've got to be able to trigger these fish into biting. So today we're using the Square 3 Arashi by Storm Lures. And what we're trying to do here is cover a lot of water, but then with the square bill, we're able to deflect off of this cover that these fish are going to be hunkered down, and that's actually going to trigger strikes. So let's break down this technique, starting with rigging. So the equipment I'm using with this bait is pretty straightforward. I'm using about a 10 to 15 pound mono or fluorocarbon. I want a little heavier line because I'm really trying to fish structure here, so I want something that's going to hold up. And then I pair that up on a slow to medium speed gear ratio. There we go, because I want to reel that bait. I don't want to over reel that bait, or I'm going to go right by these fish sometimes. And then lastly, I want that parabolic bend. So I've got a 7-foot cranking rod here, and the idea is that as these fish are fighting on these treble hooks, that rod will really have a nice parabolic bend to it. And then I want a sensitive enough rod because I really want to feel out that bottom down there. A lot of times once I'm bumping off that cover, I'm going to pause that bait. So it's really important that you're feeling out what you're hitting. A couple things I want to mention about this bait are first the circuit board lip right here. This is made to get that bait down real fast, but also get the great action out of this Arashi. Next is the self-tuning line tie. This actually adjusts as you're reeling it in, and is always going to make your bait run true, which is a huge bonus to these baits. Okay, so this bait dives about 3 feet. So I want to use this bait now anywhere from 1 to 4 feet of water, or over grass that's at least 3 feet below the surface. So I'm just ticking the top of that grass. Usually, I'm just using a nice, steady retrieve. Just bringing that back about a medium speed reel here. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to feel out for that bottom. Now, anytime I hit off some rocks or some kind of cover down there, I want to give it a quick pause. So that bait just has that, it deflects, then kind of hesitates like it's stunned for a second. A lot of times that's where your strikes are going to come. There we go. There we go. Look at that. And so guys, I'm reeling that so slow, bounced off a couple rocks, and that fish just barely hit it. But that nice parabolic bend, you can see that nice bend in that rod, that allowed that fish to really be able to inhale it. Didn't get pulled out too much out of its mouth. Got a good hook set, able to fight the fish with that bend. And there we go. A nice summertime, well-fed, fat little bass. Huh, Leo? That's a good fish, huh, buddy? And look at that. He was able to choke it. He got both of the hooks in his mouth. If I wouldn't have a nice, sensitive, soft rod, that wouldn't allow enough bend, and this fish probably wouldn't have gotten hooked. All right, guys, let's talk location. We've already mentioned in the beginning that these shallow water summertime bass really like to scatter out and seek out isolated cover, that really a shady spot isolated cover. So I like to break down summertime locations into 3 different situations. First is low light conditions. Second is the shade from cover. And then the third is wind. First, let's talk about low light conditions. Guys, low light conditions can be any time that there's less visibility, that sun's not as bright. That's early morning, late evening, and then anytime there's an overcast day. Bass love these conditions because it gives them the opportunity, a little bit more of an advantage over the prey because they can sneak up a little bit better. Usually during these conditions, the bass aren't as hunkered down into a cover as much. They're actually moving around. So they'll be going along rocky points. They'll be between docks. They're not as tight to cover. So you can really cover water quickly, and you don't have to be as accurate with your casts. It's more about covering as much water as possible. Now the next situation is the shade from cover. As that sun comes up in the day, it starts to really get hot. So these fish will really hunker down and hold tight to cover and really on the shady side of that cover, because that's where it's gonna be a little cooler and that's where they can kind of hunker down and hide. Now when this happens, these bass become less active. They're not really out chasing bait. So you've really gotta have a bait, you've gotta be accurate with your cast and really get in those spots where they're at. But then also, which this bait excels at, is you've gotta deflect off that cover, because those fish aren't, even though a bait comes by, they're not necessarily gonna chase it. But if you deflect and then have that little pause, the bass can't help themselves. They've got to take advantage of that opportunity. The last situation I want to talk about is wind. During the summertime, this is really important to understand what's going on. With that warm water and stuff, we start having these algae blooms and things, and that algae floats to the top of the water and then gets blown against the shores anytime there's any wind. Now, favorite food for your little bait fish friends is those little algae blooms. So they go up and they feed up on the surface, up on the shore right there as that wind's coming through. Now bass know that this is a great opportunity, because those little bait fish and stuff that are feeding on all the algae that's getting blown in are an easy meal to these bass. So right here, we've got just a little breeze coming right into this shoreline here. It's kind of a little point. Now this is where there's gonna be some bait fish, and there's also going to be some hungry bass. And don't be afraid to cast that bait way up shallow. Right now, I'm in probably about 6 inches of water. If you've got wind and that's getting those bait fish up shallow, you better believe those bass are gonna be right up there behind them, because this makes it an easier meal for these bass. They know, there we go. They know if they can trap these bass up shallow, trap these bait fish up shallow, they have a better chance of getting that meal, because the bait fish have less room to retreat. Look at that, nice. That fish was, oh, that's a good fish. Fish was up shallow, feeding on this bait fish. And another thing to note, if you catch a fish that's up shallow feeding this time of the year, there'll probably be a few more. They really understand how to take advantage of the opportunities, and so there's gonna be more than one bass, especially if you catch a nice little 3.5, 4 pounder like that. That's because he knows where the easy meals are at, and that's why he was up. I mean, I caught that fish in about 1 foot of water. Love it. Guys, summertime fish can be a little more challenging to catch, but if you understand what they're doing, the next step is just using the correct bait, like this little Square 3 Arashi by Storm Lures, and this will allow you to really seek out those fish and find a little cover they're hanging around, but also will help activate those fish, because you really want to trigger those strikes, because those fish get a little lethargic and stuff during this warmer weather. I'm Travis, guys, with Lucky Tackle Box. If you enjoyed the video, throw us the thumbs up. Make sure you leave a comment below. I always read through those and make sure to respond. And also, for any other information on the equipment or the tackle we use in this video, check the description box below for a link. All right, Leo, we're gonna get one, okay? Right there. Right in this launch ramp. Here we go, ready? Let's see what we got. Yeah, let's see. We got one.